All I ever wanted was a coach to believe in me, to give me an opportunity to start week one and to see what I could do with the football team through the course of a season. And fortunately for me, and it's taken a while, but I found that guy in Jon Gruden and the Oakland Raiders.
Before doing research for this video, my basic knowledge of Rich Gannon's story was as follows. Journeyman quarterback that doesn't get his shot until late in his career, has tons of success with the Raiders, wins an MVP, loses a Super Bowl, the end. That's all I knew, and that's all I thought it was. But boy was I wrong. Rich Gannon's story is probably 100 times more shocking and intriguing than I ever imagined. Yeah, he won an MVP. At age 37. Yeah, he was a backup quarterback to start his career after threatening to retire as a rookie. These are just a few examples of how stunning and shocking this story is. And as we go down the rabbit hole of Rich Gannon's story arc, think about how completely unlikely you are to believe what you're hearing, even if it was in a movie screenplay. And also think about how eerily similar his story is to current Raiders starting quarterback, Geno Smith. Rich Gannon grew up in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area and was a decent athlete in high school, but didn't find himself absolutely flush with Division I offers from top schools. His older brother attended Delaware University and convinced the school to give Rich Gannon what was his only Division I offer that he was willing to accept. Delaware was known for the triple option offense, but Rich Gannon had an absolute rocket of an arm. And after Gannon accepted his scholarship and decided to take his talents to Delaware University, the school made the switch to a pro-style system. The gamble paid off, and Rich Gannon was on the radar for NFL teams. Gannon was drafted in the 4th round of the 1987 draft by the New England Patriots. But instead of letting him play quarterback, they wanted to change his position to wide receiver or running back. He was not having any of that. Gannon threatened to retire as a rookie and study law school instead. Just 1 week after the draft, the Patriots decided to trade their 4th round pick, an unprecedented move, and Rich Gannon was now a member of the Minnesota Vikings, where he found himself 4th in the depth chart. For the next 5 years, Rich Gannon was the backup for the Minnesota Vikings. By the time he turned 26, he had spent his entire life on the bench. When he finally got the chance to start in Minnesota, he led the Vikings to the playoffs. However, he was benched before he ever made his first career playoff start. The Minnesota Vikings of that same season were upset in the playoffs at home. Next came the Kansas City Chiefs. In 1997, the Chiefs starter went down, and Gannon, who was newly signed as a free agent, stepped in and led the team to the #1 seed in the AFC West, riding a 6-game winning streak. But when the playoffs came, Rich Gannon was benched yet again, and the Chiefs lost at home in the playoffs. Deja vu. The same thing happened in Minnesota. Twice he had led his team to the playoffs, and twice he was sidelined during the playoffs when it mattered most, and his teams lost. Then, in the year 1999, Al Davis and Jon Gruden decided to sign journeyman quarterback, age 33, Rich Gannon. This was truly his last real shot to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. But with Jon Gruden's West Coast system and a roster full of veterans, Gannon found himself smack dab in the middle of something absolutely electric. Over the next 4 seasons he started for the Oakland Raiders, he made 4 straight Pro Bowls, won 3 straight AFC West titles, and in 2002, at age 37, he led the NFL in passing yards and won the National Football League Most Valuable Player award. That same year, 2002, he led the Raiders to their first Super Bowl in 19 years. He had gone from the rookie that threatened to retire after a strong-armed position change was thrown on him to the most valuable player in football, starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. However, and this is where the movie screenplay might have him win the Super Bowl, Rich Gannon's fate was not a fairy tale. In the 2003 Super Bowl, facing his former coach Jon Gruden, the coach who gave him a chance to reinvent himself and restart his career, Gannon threw 5 interceptions against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Raiders lost the Super Bowl. The following season, injuries began to pile up, and by 2004, Rich Gannon's career was over and he had retired. Rich Gannon's late career run remains one of the most improbable runs in NFL history. From 4th-string quarterback to most valuable player, from threatened retirement to Super Bowl starter, it had been 12 years from his draft day to his first Pro Bowl. He just needed the right team, right coach, and the right time. Now ask yourself this, and remember the question I asked in the beginning. Does this sound any familiar? Geno Smith, like Rich Gannon, entered the league as a quarterback that was intriguing, only to be completely written off. Drafted in 2013, he struggled with the Jets and bounced around as a backup for 8 whole seasons. But in the year 2022, at age 32, the same age Rich Gannon was when he joined the Raiders, Geno Smith took over as the Seattle Seahawks starter with Pete Carroll as his head coach. He responded that first year as a starter with 4,282 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, a Pro Bowl selection, and led the Seahawks to the playoffs in a supposed rebuild year. Like Rich Gannon, Geno Smith didn't change who he was. He found a system and a coaching staff that believed in it. He became smarter, more efficient, more composed. They might have written him off, but he didn't write back. The similarities between Rich Gannon and Geno Smith are eerily similar and will potentially send a chill down your spine. And I'm not predicting that Geno Smith is going to have an MVP type run, but these are simply the facts. Rich Gannon spent years bouncing between the Vikings, the Redskins, and the Chiefs before finding long-term success. Geno Smith was drafted by the Jets, then bounced between the Jets, Giants, Chargers, and Seahawks before finally emerging as a great starter. Rich Gannon didn't become a Pro Bowl level starter until age 34. Geno Smith broke out as a full-time starter at age 32 with the Seahawks, nearly a decade after being drafted. Rich Gannon in his first year with the Raiders went 8-8 and had a Pro Bowl selection. Geno Smith's first year as a starter with the Seahawks, they went 9-8, and he was also selected for the Pro Bowl. Geno Smith and Rich Gannon were both known for their accuracy, quick decision-makings, and low turnover rate. Rich Gannon saved the Raiders from irrelevance in the 1990s and pushed them to 3 straight AFC West titles. Geno Smith did the same thing. The Seattle Seahawks were expected to rebuild in the year 2022 after trading Russell Wilson. Instead, they reached the playoffs 2 straight years. I think the moral of this story is simple. The NFL is about circumstance. And if you're so quick to write these quarterbacks off before they get a chance to truly show who they are, you might be throwing away the next Rich Gannon. You might be throwing away the next Geno Smith, the next Baker Mayfield, the next Sam Darnold, the next Bryce Young. The question remains this: who is the next quarterback that's currently on the bench that is going to get a second shot and revitalize their career? Is it a Zach Wilson? Is it a Daniel Jones? Is it a Trey Lance? Only time will tell. But here's what Raider fans should take away from this video. Geno Smith has a chance to cement his legacy as someone that can be put in the same sentence as MVP at age 37, Rich Gannon. I was debating to actually show myself on camera after this video because I wanted to talk a little more about this sort of in a podcast form. So look, if you like that documentary style beginning to this video, maybe stick around and hear what I have to say. I'm sure most of you know who I am already anyway, so it doesn't matter. You're going to stick around. That is absolutely insane that Rich Gannon was drafted in the 4th round by the Patriots and they wanted to change his position. Now look, he had like 25 rushing touchdowns and ran for over 2,000 yards in Delaware. Like, he could fly when he was younger. There was also talks about him maybe being switched to cornerback. Like, he was the original Lamar Jackson. And the fact that he almost retired, threatened to retire and go to law school, and then was traded a week after being drafted? Like, how often does that happen? I mean, we traded Lynn Bowden Jr., didn't we? Or we cut him or something like that. And that's funny because he was like a hybrid quarterback, running back, wide receiver type player. But really what I wanted to talk about here, and by the way, hit that subscribe button if you like what you see here. I'm going to be doing more Raiders retrospective videos. The fact that Geno Smith could maybe be the next Rich Gannon is very interesting because, and it's funny, when Gardner Minshew signed with us last year, everyone was like, oh, Rich Gannon. And it's like, yeah, but Gardner Minshew had like a good season. Rich Gannon had multiple teams in position to make playoff runs and then was benched. Like, Gardner Minshew like never played in the playoffs because he didn't make the playoffs with any of the teams he started with, and he had one good season. Geno Smith, obviously what's different and what people could say is, well, he already had his Rich Gannon run. Like, he went to the Seahawks and that was it. The difference is he still got a lot of the elements that were in Seattle in Las Vegas because of Pete Carroll. It's as if Rich Gannon was with John Gruden in the Raiders, and then he left the Raiders and then went to Tampa Bay and then won the Super Bowl. That's kind of what this feels like with Geno Smith and Rich Gannon. So it's super interesting to think about, and I think the key here that I left out of the documentary that I'm going to talk about right here is the wear and tear on the body. What made me start to do this video It was suggested in my Discord by a few people, but I was thinking about doing Rich Gannon, and what made me think about doing it is the idea that he won the MVP at 37. Like, only Brady, Manning, and Y.A. Tittle won MVPs at age 37. And then there's Rich Gannon. And I think, those players are on a different level than Rich Gannon, obviously. But what's different, what sets him apart is he was a backup for a long time. So he did not have a normal 37-year-old body, right? Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are freaks of nature, and so is Y.A. Tittle. We'll throw Y.A. in there as well. But Rich Gannon had like a 32-year-old body at age 37, and that's the same thing with Geno. He's 33 now, maybe turning 34. He might be 34, turning 35, right? But Pete Carroll has said he's not a 34-year-old quarterback. He's like a 29-year-old quarterback, body-wise, because he has stayed on the bench and just learned. So mentally, he's 37. Or no, not 37. Rich Gannon was mentally 37. But physically, he was like 30. And that's what Tom Brady said was so frustrating about him having to retire, is that mentally, he's the best he ever was on the field. It's just physically, Father Time is undefeated, even with Tom Brady. So the idea that Geno Smith mentally is getting better and better and better, and now he's got Chip Kelly calling the plays with the backing of Pete Carroll, his body could hold up here, and he can go on an even better run than he did in Seattle. So I don't know, man. This could be very interesting. If you like what you see here, hit that like button. Let me know if you like these kind of Raider retrospective type videos. I want to do more of them. This one was super duper interesting. I have ideas for other ones. I might throw them on the Patreon and have people vote on them. I'm not guaranteeing that, but it's an idea that I've had. Speaking of Patreon, shout out to my beautiful executive producer patrons. If you want to become one of these people, get your name at the end of the credits, get ad-free content, exclusive content, videos days in advance. Sign up. Link is in the description below. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe. It's free after no charge to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.